When I started working in the early 1980s, I remember being admonished at work for wearing slacks.
Sort of not designated seats, but when they walk in for staff meeting, they sat in the same seat, and there was not a seat for me. And so I would have to sit on this little sofa on the side while they're all around the table.
Of course, at that time, we still had some, well, let me just call them Neanderthals, on the government side, too, who also were like, well, what are these girls doing here?
I remember some attorney asking me a question, and then, later on he comes by and he said, oh, I checked with so-and-so, and you were right. He agrees. So I just said, next time you need to have a white male's perspective. If you feel that, the advice, just go to them, and I got enough.
Male supervisor who was intimidated women, let me put it that way.
I found myself in meetings where I was the only woman in the room. I was often also the youngest person in the room. I was very junior when I started, pretty much right out of law school. And I'm short to bit. There was sort of the sense of, well, what's she doing here?
I wanted to sit at the table, so I got to the meeting early, and I just went in and sat down. And so the shock on their faces when they walked in and saw me sitting at the table, well, I wasn't going to move.
And I was one of the first women to join the SES in other than a management type, human resources, managing director type.
My mentor was kind of a hellraiser. The kind of woman that said things way back when that people said, oh, that'll never happen here. And many years later, like 10 years later or 15 years later, some of those very things that she pushed for have had to happen.
I think that's how, things change for women when we decide that enough is enough and that we're going to stand up.
I found, particularly in the context when you're talking about women of color, that you saw very few of us in professional positions at the FCC.
There weren't that many women at the law firm where I was practicing. There were some women associates, but they tended to be the junior associates. We only had one female partner in the law firm. There weren't a lot of examples of how to be a lawyer, how to be a woman lawyer, and balance the family obligations that women have.
I think this is a great place for women to balance life. Commissioner Abernathy was a proponent of women and balancing life and
the federal government. It gave me an incredible sense of freedom because I could do things, and there wasn't as much of an old boy network.
Very happy to have been able to participate in the broadband plan, particularly in the
opportunity to participate in the digital television transition on a special team that was assigned to Chicago.
To create our first computer help desk, the one that we have today. And I have been the voice of the customer.
I'm very proud of work I did on with the Hill on legislation to fix what was a problem in the telecommunications area, 900
The
numbers.
FCC, on the whole, the people on the whole, both men and women, actually value the atmosphere, actually value the family, actually value wanting it to be a nice
place. The commission,
place.
I think, does a better job than most places, but I still think it's very hard.
And surely, at some point, this commission is going to get a female chairman. We've had several female commissioners.
And one day we have a majority of women commissioners and then a male, and nobody will think anything of it.
This is wonderful to be able to think and deliberate over what Women's History Month means.